Alright, so this is part 3 of my series on map and compass, and we're back out at a sports field. And the reason for that is at some point this inevitably becomes about taking those points that we stuck on a map and either indicating where a river was or where our camp was and putting those onto a real-world map. So in order to be able to do that, we've got to be able to turn our paces into some kind of real-world measurement. So what I'm doing out here is that tree up there. I've actually, in this case, instead of using a tape, used a laser rangefinder, and I know that that's 49 yards away. So I'm going to, count my paces there and back, which gives me 98 yards, and then I'm going to find out what my average feet per pace is. So hold on and we'll be right back. Okay, so after figuring it out, it works out that a casual pace for me is 5.15 feet per count. So that's not each step. That's, remember, each time I'm using, each time 1 foot hits the ground, so it's a little over 2.5 feet per step. It's a very casual pace. What you want to avoid doing is like stretching, because really stretching out your pace. This is not about what manly pace you have. This is what is your normal kind of walking through woods environment. If you exaggerate your pace, it's going to throw things off even more, because remember, going uphill or downhill, your pace is shortening. So now ideally what you would do is go to a steep hill and figure out what your pace is on a steep incline and use that, but for this purpose I'm not gonna do that. So I've cleaned up our map here a little bit, and try and zoom in here. Alright, so I've kind of erased some of the lines. Here was our river. This was our little base camp area right here. This was our vehicle area. And inevitably now what we're going to want to do is to translate into a real map, where is that? Because we need to, at times, sometimes this is great. You can just use this. Other times you're going to want to give something to someone and you're going to want to transfer it onto a different scale diagram. So I'm going to write some directions on here, or some distances, merely using our paces, and we'll get some things worked out. So you'll recall that originally in part 2 we had figured out we had about 145 paces roughly between here. Now, keeping in mind that from roughly here to here is going to be steep, steeper woods, so that's going to throw things off a bit, but we should be somewhat close here. So we're just going to kind of rough this out. So 145 times 5.15, so 747 feet. Okay, so we have at this point from our parking area, we need to get the reverse coordinate. So we were at 225 degrees, so we're going to dial the button again. 225. It's not a button, it's a Silva. Alright, and be as accurate as you can. You can just flip it around. Usually there'll be a mark on the other side, and that's your reverse heading. So here I've got our reverse heading of 42. Okay, so where do we go from there? Most of the time when you're going to be working with a map, as I said earlier, you're going to be looking at something with a scale of 1 to 24,000. That's the standard small size scale, and you can see that this is the park we were at down here, and you know, I know from experience that this little building right here is near where we parked. I mean, we're talking all our tromping around was in an area like this. It's not going to be very meaningful to translate, you know, things that we did today, and really, and unless you're talking, you know, distances of close to, you know, a half mile or more, it's not going to be very meaningful on a map of this scale to show something. What you can do, though, is you can blow them up. And there's a couple different ways you can do that. Here, we have the same map, only it's blown up. And I'm mostly dealing with this. This is at a scale of 1 to 10,000. So that is, you know, a much, much bigger scale to work with. The way you can do this, the simplest way, is if you have a map like this. And it's something that, you know, you can cut up, and I know that's not always practical. You can cut out the physical scale here and just paste it up in the area where you want to work with, and then you can throw that on a copier and just blow it up. Your physical scale here is just going to blow up right with it, and you can, in a very simple way, you know, figure out where you're going to be going. Okay, so we have a 1 to 10,000 scale map. What that's telling us is that, make sure I'm in frame, 1 inch on the map is equal to 10,000 inches in real life, which is equal to 833 feet. So our 747 feet, we're going to convert onto the map just by simple division. So 747 divided by 833, we're going to get 0.897 inches. So we're going to be rounding that up to 0.9 inches on the map. So now we have a distance on this map that we can use and a direction. So what we do need then is a known point. Where do we start from? And that's, you know, that's where you guys have to, you know, have identified a parking lot or some other artifice that, you know, you're going to start from. In this case, I know approximately where it is. I know that I was about here-ish. So, just like we did before, our direction of travel, because this is our reverse course, is this way. Arrow up. And I'm trying to do this kind of sideways, because so here's our line of travel. And we want to look at 10th scale. 0.9 inches. It'll be right down here. So just up from the river. And that's pretty close to where we were. I think the parking lot, this is that building, it's the parking lot, it's right here. Not having, you know, a for sure fixed point up here makes this a little dicier, but we're definitely in, you know, within a few feet again. So we're able then to translate this onto an actual map, where you have something where you took a little time to make sure that you knew your starting point. For instance, if I had started at the building and then we traversed around and I had a known start, that makes that a lot easier. There's also if we had normally what you would do is you would start off of a known point down by the road here or something like that, where the driveway comes in, and then traverse that, so you have a very known location. And I had my hand right in front of things, so that wasn't helpful. But so typically you would start out from a very well known, and that's going to help lock this up a lot tighter. But as it is, you would be able to hand somebody this map and indicate the position of your camp or of other features. Now, the neat thing with this is that we can, based on this, identify other significant characteristics or locations that we found in our travel. So for instance, I know that right down here where I first met the water, there was a pretty nice little grill spot that was in the shade. And when you're a pale redhead like I am, that's a good thing. So I could say, well, let's identify that spot. So if I wanted to go directly there, I didn't want to go to camp first, or I wanted to go just to that spot, I'd be able to traverse there. So it would help if I align this correctly. Alrighty. I think I'm getting close to bifocals time, which is not really much appreciated by me. So it looks like I would want to go on a course of 6 degrees. Okay, so let's translate that into the real world. So again, this isn't going to be the greatest thing because I've got a little bit of a shady start point. It's not the best, but we can take this right then over. I want to get this as north-south as I can. Which is really hard to do when make sure that that's actually a valid reference. There we go. Making sure we get everything lined up as close as possible. Run a line down. Much more importantly, what we have is we have the direction. We know it's at the river, and we're able to simply just go right to that location. So we know that that barbecue spot would be right here, and we would be able to locate that just right off of this map directly. So what we've done is take a simple day's travel that we jotted down on paper and mapped out, and made it into something that we can reuse either directly. If we didn't want to translate this onto a real map, we could continue to use this, and we could use this to locate various things relative to our camp. We could continue to fill this in as we discover new features, and this could become a comprehensive map of the area that we're in. Things that we might want to do would be to fill in where the river goes, more of the things down here. Eventually maybe I'll do something on topographic mapping, but that's kind of beyond the scope of this right now. Or you can use it in a blown up map. If you were going greater distances, you would be able to use and do the same things on here, but again, you can see that unless you were traveling a significant distance, you're going to have a hard time. Also keep in mind that any errors on a map this size get, it's going to be a lot more significant. So, so keep that in mind. And so I guess in summary, looking at our first 3 lessons, we've gone out, we've put maps on, gone out, learned how to use a compass. We've put those points to paper initially in a loop, and now in a more random form, where we were able to establish a base camp and then plot our way back. And we've translated that onto a real world map. Again, if you have comments, please let me know. If there's something else you'd like to see, let me know. But in the next parts of the series, what we'll be doing is going out into the woods and applying this. I said this earlier, I can't stress it enough. Don't just watch this and then go head for the woods, because this, like anything else, is a skill that you need to develop. And I just don't want to see somebody get out there and then get themselves lost. If you follow the steps and you practice the exercises that we've been doing, you're going to do just fine. There's really not going to be any place you're going to go get yourself in trouble unless you stop writing down your distances and directions, and you don't take the time to map them out. If you get sloppy at all, if you lack the discipline to do this meticulously, and you just walk in, you could get yourself into some real trouble. So practice, practice, practice. If there's any doubt in your mind, go and practice some more. And then when you do go into the woods, start with something small and easy the first time. And we're going to start with, in the woods, that same triangle exercise. And what we're going to see is, I know from experience, is that it's going to be a lot sloppier out there, because you're stepping over stumps and hummocks, and there's trees in the way, and things get messier and the errors get bigger. When we do a bigger loop, I'm not going to be a few feet from the car next time. I'm going to be 20 yards. So it's going to get messier as we go. So be prepared for that. That's why it's important to really work on the fundamentals in a safe environment first, where there's no way you're going to get lost. People may look at you a little funny when you're out there with your backpack and your compass, but that's fine. It's much better than ending up lost in the woods. All right, thanks guys.